This is On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, your weekly Flyers recap from Blue Line to Blue Line. On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, is brought to you by Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Bernie Robbins Jewelers, Hand and Stone Spa, Independence Blue Cross. Now here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
All right, everybody, welcome to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross from here at Chickies and Pete's in Audubon, PA. Kind of an unusual situation tonight as I do my first show of the year with Mr. Brad Marsh. Ed Hospodar, former Flyer, is our guest. Let's get everything out there in advance. Phillies Game 3 is taking place right now in San Diego as it's on WBCB. We're going to be going a day early today, so you're going to be hearing this show Thursday night. Flyers, as we stand, are 3-0. Just keep in mind we're talking Wednesday night at about 6 o'clock. Brad Marsh, Phillies up on the air, and Flyers, meanwhile, 3-0. Not forgotten about. Hell of a start for the Flyboys. First of all, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, and how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Good to hear.
Hope your summer's gone well. Hopefully everything's gone well. And we got the sports craze in Philadelphia is amazing right now with everything that's going on. But who the hell could have thought the Flyers, a road win in Tampa Bay, they lost 10 in a row there. They've come back from 2-goal deficits twice. John Tortorella's got them playing hard. You can go on and on with the superlatives, but nobody expected this, did they?
Well, I think the only person that did expect it was John Tortorella, and his belief, and his work ethic, his style of play, I should say. He made known right from I don't even want to say day one in training camp. He made it known day one when he first met each player through the summertime,
yep.
And I think the players believe it now too. And now we just need all the Flyer fans to believe that, we're the real deal. Does that mean we're going to win a Stanley Cup? Probably not. But gone are the days where people are leaving. I was going to say after the second period, but
the first period.
There were sometimes last year I think they left well before that. But I tell you what, and just to repeat what I said, John Tortorella believed that he could turn this around, and 3-game sample, he has.
Wow, he's turned most programs around that he's been to. Again, a cup is unlikely, but you never know. We have a guy with us tonight, a guest that is probably known most for the incident in Montreal in the playoffs. I'm not sure we're going to have any incidents like that this year. I'd be thrilled as a Flyer fan if we had the opportunity to have an incident like this in the playoffs anywhere. He was a defenseman for 9 years in the NHL for 5 different teams. Played against Brad in some playoff situations. We're going to talk about that. He's also got his junior contract here, which is fascinating. Mr. Ed Hospodar, how are you, Eddie?
Very good, very good. Yep.
How surprised are you? I mean, you're a Flyer alumni living in the area. Flyers get out of the gate 3-0. Maybe it's just Philly karma that anybody's going to win, although the Sixers lost last night. But they're playing hard. They're playing aggressive. What has Tortorella done for this team in this little sample snippet that caught your eye the most?
First, if they come back and they believe that there was talent there, according to the NHL station, which I listened to, that's always said they had good young prospects, good players, but something happened that it didn't work. And for a guy, really, I think as a team coming in and players, getting that room together and everybody knowing where North is and going in the same direction, all working together, can make big advantages. And you like to say, don't lose the games early September, October, because they only get harder as the season goes on.
It's interesting, Brad, because Eddie mentioned the word belief, and that's a word that John Tortorella has used on and on again in his early preseason press conferences, connections with the media and the like. He doesn't care who you're playing. He just sends 4 lines out, rolls 4 lines, 3 defensemen. He said, if we believe we're as good as the opponent and we work hard and play hard, we can play to their level. Obviously, I think he realizes that doesn't mean to win a cup, as you said, but belief keeps you going in the ballpark. Was that the case in your career?
Oh, 100%. And it stems from the organization down to the GM and down to the right coach who's behind the bench. And you're right, he talked about that right from the get-go, and the players are starting to believe in it. And you had mentioned that, John doesn't care who he's playing. He's going to put a game plan together and go out and win. But what John does better than most coaches, he doesn't care how he wins the game with what players. That's what I mean is he'll go with whatever players are going. And he'll go with whatever players are working hard, and he'll go with whatever players are playing his system. He doesn't care about that name on the back.
Right.
He's going with the players that are going to get him to win that night.
And the sign in the locker room, the emblem on the front is more important than the name on the back, Eddie. We talk about people can say whatever they want. They have to live what they say. And John Tortorella lives what he says. He'll move guys up and down in lines right during the game. A fourth liner will become a second liner if he likes his work ethic, he likes his work rate. Guys go up and down, and people have to get used to that play for him. Obviously, Cam Atkinson, who's banged up, he'll come back soon. He'll be back. He was with him in Columbus. But he didn't care who you are. Like Brad said, it's about the emblem on the front, and he'll move you up and down during games. Were you ever moved around during a game depending on how you were playing?
Well, I didn't see a whole lot of ice time periodically here.
We're back and forth on the bench sometimes,
yeah,
myself included, because,
we are.
sorry to jump in, but that's how Keenan was. We both had Keenan. Yes,
yeah.
We had Poole and Prop and Kerr, like, let's face it, they're the go-to line even if they made a mistake. But Mike knew the players, and he knew who was playing. And
I think when playing for Freddie Scherer or whatever, somebody's going to chip in. You know, if we're all working hard and all going in the right direction, you don't care where it comes from. Now, again, we had that big line, but Sinisala, Eklund, the Sutter brothers, there's a lot. Murray Craven, I mean, Zezel, Tocchet, those are nice depth players to come to, too. But know that we're going to win with 20 guys.
Well, you have guys like Travis Konechny who's off to a fast start. Defensively, everybody's playing well. Travis Sanheim's got the new contract. Carter Hart, who we'll talk about later, has allowed 2 goals in each of 3 games. But, Brad, if I said to you that I'm a Flyer fan, I went to the North Pole for a few days, came back, opened the newspaper or my phone, looked online and said the Flyers were 3-0-0 and had won on the road in Tampa Bay already, what's the biggest reason for that? I as a fan, I'd say, what the hell happened? Biggest reason is
you're dating yourself. No one reads the newspaper anymore.
That's why I went with the phone.
Yeah, but no, like if you hadn't known that we hired John Torts, I guess we should refer to him, and you came back and you had no idea, you thought Vigneault was still here or whatever. Yes, you'd be shocked. But if you knew that we hired Torts and then you went away and you come back, he's done exactly what he said he was going to do. So
sometimes teams switch coaches mid-season, and all of a sudden you say, "Oh wow, what happened?" It's almost like a new beginning, and they can get all that karma, can get a little bit swept back, and the guys can get off to an early start and say, "Wow, we know we can do it."
But
you were at the home opener.
Yep.
So you go down, and I remember home openers. They were cool. They're much simpler back when we played than they are now. There's as much pressure on the game day presentation teams to put on a good because people expect it.
And they redid the whole building.
The building's beautiful.
Beautiful.
So, excuse me, but you go down the bench and this player gets a cheer, this player, then they do the training staff, then they do all the assistant coaches that they have now. The person that got the biggest cheer was Tortorella.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable as they were going down because fans knew about him and what he was going to bring to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Did you hear who got booed, by the way, guys? There's one guy who got booed.
Ryan Ellis.
Yeah, Ryan Ellis, who didn't play last year, probably not going to play this year, no fault of his own. Brad mentioned everything is exactly right that Brad mentioned, Eddie, but the one thing that has emerged already this year, the Flyers have come back in all 3 games, goal down in the opener, 2 goals against Vancouver, 2 goals last night against a team that's the best in the East, obviously a couple times Stanley Cup winner, lost in the finals last year. Is that a coincidence? Is that a miracle? Or is there something they're doing that keeps them in games and they never give up?
Well, I'd like to say they're pros now, but you know what? To get off to a fast start and say, hey, we can build on this, let's keep it going, and everybody gets into a rhythm, knowing what they're to expect, and they're still playing for their jobs early in the season.
Playing for ice time. Playing for ice time.
They play for ice time, I think. He said you can score 100 goals in the first 12 games. Your 13th game, you dog it, I'm going to get on you. You're never going to have that mulligan, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you guys were both workaholic
and you know
players.
What? Not to accept. I mean, played in teams where, with the Hartford Whalers, it was just like the ship was in the water, but there was no rudder. There's no. and it was
That was
like
a bad arena, bad franchise, bad.
every man for themselves on the ship. You know.
Were the Atlanta Flames any different, really?
Well,
Maybe they were. Maybe I'm.
No, we had great teams there.
Oh my God,
we had good teams.
Good
Eric
teams,
Vail.
but did they have a
Yeah,
fan base?
It was the first time around. We had a very good fan base. We just we weren't successful in the playoffs, and I don't care what sport, where you're playing. If you don't win in the playoffs, that's what excites everybody. That
You lost early, and you had a great team, and you lost early to the Rangers that just got in. I was on that team, and not to say I scored the winning goal. It was a Joe Watson goal, meaning that didn't Joe score in the Russians, and they said to send somebody to Siberia. I got one shift that game, scored the second goal, and the third goal, and we won like 3-2 in Atlanta. We had to tease Billy Clement.
That was back when it was the best of three.
Yeah.
All right, back to the
Phil
regular
Esposito
season.
was still playing.
Yes.
Phil Esposito?
Yeah. Well, after that game, too, it's not like our team was so dismal. It was ready to leave. Down in Atlanta, back then, it was every owner for themselves. They didn't work together to better the sport. The Bill Wirtzes and the Harold Ballards, they couldn't care less about the other friend. They were greedy. They just wanted their bank accounts to be big. And Nelson Scalabrini walked in after the game and said to Tom Cousins, who owned the team, "I want to buy your team. It's not for sale." Well, here's my offer. So he ended up selling the team. So.
Yeah.
And then did they move right away?
Right away. 1980, 1980, right up to Calgary.
All right, well, the Flyers aren't going anywhere now. We know that. You guys were both workaholic players.
Oh, you mean to another town?
To another town,
yes,
correct.
yes.
They're going to Florida tonight to play their fourth game. And as Florida sits in their dressing room right about now, again, this is a day earlier as you hear this, but Florida's looking at a team that's 3-0, just beat Tampa on the road, their first back-to-back as they continue their hurdles into the new season. John Tortorella with more confidence, obviously, than last week. What's Florida's coach telling them now, Brad, about you're playing the Flyers, and they're like, how the hell are they 3-0? What's the thing you have to worry about the most as a player in that locker room about what you've seen the first week?
Well, the coach is saying they're for real, boys. Come on, we got to be ready. And some of the players are like, yeah, right. They're the same team as they were last year. And so we have to get off to a good start tonight to put Florida on their heels.
Eddie, how hard was that? I mean, Flyers have not gotten off to a good start in any of the three games. Not on the scoreboard. They've worked hard, but there's a scoreboard for a reason. What do they have to do to get on the board tonight early?
I just say stay consistent and stick to the game plan and to keep playing, and somebody's going to step up to the plate and make it happen. We only have to win by one, too.
That's interesting, guys, because for me personally, I've seen Tortorella at all his stops. I've been at pressers where he was with the Rangers. You learn to see that he's got a bite to him. He mentioned Gary Bettman was at the game last week, the opener, and he mentioned he was talking to Gary Bettman. Somebody said, what'd you talk about? He said, I was asking what you did with all the money you take from me in fines, and got a big laugh from the media. But Tortorella has that attitude. He has that bite. And everybody's wondering what's he going to be like when he comes here. And I think he hasn't been that John Tortorella. We're going to see that the first time the ship, as Eddie puts it, goes in the wrong shipping lane. But I think Tortorella, one of the things, Brad, that amazes me about him is he understands the pulse of the team he's coaching. He didn't come in here expecting to win 9 cups in a row. He's realistic. He sees what he's got. How important is being realistic to a coach at what he's got and what to do with a team and not aiming too high or assuming too much?
Well, I think the coach has to be 100% realistic of who he has on the bench and who he's going to tap on the shoulder to go out for the power play or the penalty kill and whatnot. But I think what John did, and he brought in his longtime assistant or associate coach, Brad Shaw.
Yep.
And so the two of them, and I played with Brad in Ottawa. Did you play with Brad anywhere?
No, I knew he was a 67, though, yeah.
Yeah, he was a 67. And
that's Brad Shaw. I watched Terry Bradshaw on TV.
Yeah. That was a bad joke. But what he brought, and he came in and spoke to all the Flyers staff prior to the season starting, like the ticket sellers and the marketing people, and it was unbelievable. He was bang on when he spoke to us, and basically, and I'm not telling any secret here because it was well known what he said because he said it so many times. He was so excited about coming to coach the Philadelphia Flyers, and so his enthusiasm about being here has carried over, and it's infectious to the players. And so now you got the players, the coach wanted to be here, except well, it must be a pretty good place to play. And so now the players want to be here, and the players want to do this and play this and all that. And so the coach he knew exactly what he was getting into, but first and foremost, he knew he was getting into an awesome hockey community and an awesome hockey franchise.
Awesome hockey franchise. Well, let's just take a break, and we'll come back, Eddie, and hold that thought for a second. John Tortorella knew he was coming to Philadelphia. This is the kind of city that is going to embrace his style, and he's going to run with it early. Let's see what happens tonight and the rest of the year. You're listening to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, live from Chickens and Pete's, right here in WBCB. It's time now for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. Each week we award a Flyer with this honor. This week, none other than Carter Hart. Allowed 2 goals each of the first 3 games, kept the Flyers in games with big saves. Defense has played well in front of them. Looks like a bounce back year very early for Carter Hart. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless. We're fearless here at Chickens and Pizza in Audubon with Brad Marsh and our guest Ed Hospodar as On the Ice rolls on after this. Stay with us.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicken and Pete's, and we know Saturdays in the fall are special. Why? College football. And we have you covered with food and drink specials and the best in-game experience to watch your team or the college football game of the week. Come watch Penn State, Temple, Villanova, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan, Georgia, and more. College football Saturdays are special at Chickies and Pete's.
I'm Lisa Thomas Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly.
I SEPTA Philly.
I ride the Broad Street line. Do you know how expensive parking is?
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
Because it's better for the environment.
I ride SEPTA all the time.
Monday through Friday, and whenever game day is.
I'm out the door and at my stop by 7:30.
I catch up on work when I ride.
I check Twitter, text my buddies.
I watch sports highlights, or lowlights.
For real Philly fans, SEPTA is the hometown way to go. Ride with us at iseptaphilly.com.
We return to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
consuming too much.
I would assume the fans consuming so much because it was a crazy game against Boston.
And that's not
lots
the
of
crowd
goals
that
scored.
you think is going to happen with. In Ottawa, I mean, I think of it as a politician, the government town.
But they're hockey fans, man.
Yes.
Like I said, it was so great, and to have all 7 Canadian teams strong from a fan base and attendance is really good for the league.
Eddie, we were talking about that before the show with your case. You're what I call a Bruce Springsteen baby, born in the USA, but you moved to Canada at a very young age. You, I guess, had landed immigrant status in Canada, but obviously being American, but being in Canada, what did that have to do with your hockey development? And as you went through your career, how did it affect your career?
Well, I think a product of your environment. I would have never got to play if I would have stayed in, Bowling Green, Ohio. I probably would have played football or baseball, something else. But then you go there, and then we moved to Canada. Had 2 older brothers that played, and I was following them around, and everybody puts on skates, and you go to the Campbell Soup hockey camp that the guys from the plant in Toronto would run and chip in their time, and then you'd watch all the guys from the plant play. They had this league that they did.
Industrial hockey's huge up there. 5,000-6,000 people just to watch them
the
play.
thing I don't think American kids understand about hockey in Canada is we have multiple sports here. Obviously, hockey's getting bigger every day as we speak with Snyder Youth Hockey and just general. Soccer's getting bigger. We obviously have the big 3 sports, but Brad, I've always wanted to ask you this, never have, and Eddie just kind of touched on it. In Canada growing up, how much is hockey a part of not just your daily life but your soul? And how big is skating and the want to play in the NHL? The Maple Leafs have a pressure on them that I'm not sure any American sports team has anywhere. Talk about it growing up in Canada, what that's like.
Well, the thing is we grew up in the 60s in our childhood, and there was no other sport in Canada. No, like we have the Blue Jays now. We have the Raptors. We used to have the Grizzlies. But hockey was the only sport that we watched, we followed, and we played it all the time because everything was frozen. And I played outdoor hockey, and when I started playing organized hockey, my dad would come and pick me up from the pond, time to go to practice. I'm already on the pond for 4 hours, for heaven's sakes.
Mm-hmm. That's what you did. Right after school, you'd go down, they'd flood the tennis courts, and you played. But there, too, hockey, down here, it's private. Somebody owns the rink.
Jimmy Watson, Ice Works,
but there, every town had their own rink, and so you could play. If we were in the area, you could play Haverford against Westchester, against Malvern, against Elkins Park, because every community had their own rink, and it was really easy to go and play a nice little house league, and then travel. But now, down in the States, and people are beating the odds there. You get into travel. In Toronto, it would be maximum of 45 minutes driving from place to place, and you're playing on. Now here you go to Washington, or you go to Hershey, or you go to New York and Connecticut and Long Island. There's a big sacrifice that families put to play ice hockey down here at the travel level and the expense. But there, when you have a community, they don't have soccer. They need a hockey rink for something for the kids in the community to, whether it's public skating, figure skating, or ice hockey, to do. So you just go to the local rink.
So the town that I lived in, it's part of Ottawa, but I lived in Canada, outside of Ottawa, suburb. It was 50,000 people. We had 9 ice surface covered rinks, 9, and something like 26 outdoor rinks that were maintained by the city or the parent committee in the community. Like my son still lives up there, and he's on the flooding committee in his neighborhood.
The flooding committee?
Yeah, they have a rink down the street with boards, lights, and the parents get together and
what does one guy go down and say, hey, pour now, guys? What is a flooding committee?
No, just making sure the ice is in great shape.
They flood the ice.
Like you keep care of a baseball field or a football field.
They have a water spigot there.
Like a groundskeeper at a baseball game.
Yeah, they flood the ice. Yeah. Flood the ice and have a few beers.
There we
are. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. You're talking about flood the ice, have a few beers. We're going to take left turns during the show, and I think one's appropriate now, Brad, because we talk about your childhoods. We're going to talk much more about the Flyers, who your favorite Flyer is. We're going to give them the stat of the week, much more to this show. But you coach a team called the Warriors that's not going to ever win a Stanley Cup. They're in it for the love of the game, ex-military. How's that going? It's got to be very rewarding to you, rewarding to others. What's up with the Warriors? How many teams you coaching? And give us a status report now, if you like.
Well, the Warrior team for the disabled veteran, we started it, a little recap, in December of 2018 with a Learn to Skate. Then we formed one team. That one team won the national championship. Then we continued to grow and continued to grow. We grew through COVID, believe it or not. We had no ice time, but we continued to grow through COVID. We had 3 Zoom calls a week just to keep everybody engaged and so on and so on. And then we hosted the national championships last year, and last year we had 3 teams. We'd grown to 3 teams, and they're each based on their ability. And last year, each of those 3 teams won the national championship in their level. And next week we're off to Troy, Michigan for the national championships again, the Warrior Classic, and we're taking 4 teams. So we got 4 full teams now, and so we've been training, practicing all summer long, and we're off to Troy next week.
And how do you qualify for a Warriors team?
Well, obviously, you have to be a disabled veteran.
Okay.
So when they retire or they're released or whatever the proper terminology is from the military, discharged from the military, they do a physical, and through that physical they're given a disability ranking if they have an injury or whatever, and so you have to be disabled, and you have to have your ranking or rating from the military, and then you qualify to play.
And how far in a radius around Philadelphia do they come to?
Well, we have guys who drive 3 hours just to practice.
Awesome.
How many times a week?
We practice every Sunday.
That's amazing.
2 or 3 hours of ice every Sunday.
But it states so much about the work ethic of hockey. But we're not talking about, and not to demean hockey players who work their you-know-what off. And you watch the Flyers. John Tortorella said he wants teams to play hard, but these are guys who have lived hard, who have been through the ultimate experience of depending on your teammates. That's the military. I don't have to explain. What's that like, Brad? I mean, these guys don't need to be schooled in working hard or any of the points that maybe you drive into an NHL player or any athlete. What's that like when that's there already and you just have to push other buttons?
Really, though, they're no different. We got some guys that cut corners, guys that screw up drills all the time, man. But you know what's really cool about it is, as I said, we've grown. One of our biggest growth areas is guys that have never played before.
Really?
We have some good hockey players that played, some college hockey, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So they're good. And we have some that think they're really good. But we have a lot of guys that have never played before, and we have guys that hold the boards when they step on the ice, and they eventually get the stride down, and when there is a procedure on how you earn your jersey. Yes, you're a disabled vet, you want to come out, you have to attend practices, you have to be a member in good standing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then you're presented your jersey. And I tell you, we gave one to a guy, Joey, what's his last name? Never played before, never skated before, and he earned his jersey the other night. Everybody was so happy for him.
That's awesome.
And now he skates without holding on to the boards. It's great. He almost took me out, though. He was stopping, and he fell down, and I had to jump. I saw him coming. I had to jump over him, and it was pretty funny. But
it's a brotherhood. It really is terrific.
The dressing room is the biggest part of the program.
Yep.
As you know, when you talk about guys, what do you miss when you retire? It's the dressing room. You like telling stories and shooting the breeze and all that stuff. These guys value the dressing room and the camaraderie so much.
We're going to continue that talk and shooting the breeze about all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk nicknames on the other side. Brad Marsh nickname Marshy. Not difficult to figure where that came from. Ed Hospodar, boxcars. Why? We'll find out when On the Ice returns. It's time now for the Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY, folks. Flyers last year, when they were down 2 goals or more, squadouche, never came back to win a game. Never. They've come back from 2 goals down already twice this season against Vancouver and against the defending Stanley Cup finalist Tampa Bay on the road. Come back from 2 goals. That's our Smart Stat of the Week. It's happened twice. Let's rock on. Once again, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions cater to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. We're back at Chickens, Pizza, and Audubon with Brad and Eddie right after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Check out Chicky and Pete's all-new happy hour every weekday starting at 4 p.m. Enjoy select craft beers, seltzers, and wines for $5, plus feature cocktails for $7 on our special happy hour food menu. We call it the Bar Board, with world-famous crab fries, tasty pretzel nuggets, and get ready, Curds Aroni, with crispy bacon and Dijon cheese sauce. Chicky and Pete's all-new happy hour every weekday starting at 4 p.m. Chickies and Pete's.
I'm Lisa Thomas Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
I-SEPTA Philly.
I-SEPTA Philly. I-SEPTA Philly.
I ride the Broad Street line. Do you know how expensive parking is?
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
Because it's better.
We return to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
All right, back with On the Ice here at Chickens and Pizza and Audubon. We got a great crowd. We got Brad Marsh and Ed Hospodar here, guys. John Tortorella has obviously done a great job his first week as a Flyer coach. Both of you guys played long careers in the NHL. You're almost the same age. Played with many different teams. You had many coaching changes. For someone like me, a layman who never played the NHL, obviously, and people out there listening right now, what's it like, and I'm sure it's different every time, each of you, to play for a new coach? That the guy who was there, he knows you, he knows your personality, he knows your work habits, he knows who you fit with, and now somebody else comes in with his own ideas. It's obviously different every time. Eddie, what's that like playing for a new coach? Does anyone stand
Well,
out
I went
to you?
from Freddie Sharrow, that was north-south, bang, bump, bruise, do everything.
Bang, bump, bruise, huh?
And
Three
then
Bs.
and then it was to Herb Brooks, Smurfs, twirlers, things. I was like, whoa, I'm going the wrong way. And I remember talking with Danny, his son, in the locker room, because he was a young child, Danny Brooks,
Okay.
the son, who moved like when he was 13, 14, and was really bummed out about leaving his family and all his friends in Minnesota and it was like, wow, you're bummed. I'm lost Freddie. I got your dad, and now we're a team of Smurfs with Pavlich and Rutsalainen and all these guys, like Speedy, Robbie DeJet, McClanahan. I'm not fitting in. I'm going, and it was like, oh man, you don't like change. I don't like change.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, Brad, because obviously Herb Brooks, the Olympic coach, and John Tortorella has said, I'm going to see who fits my system. There might be guys who leave and come in who, in that evaluation process as you go, What was the most unique coaching change you went through, and how do you think it'll play out with the Flyers here as far as change on the roster as we go along?
Well, as you asked the question, I'm just thinking of the coaches that I had, and when I left Philadelphia and went to Toronto, it was a dysfunctional organization and a dysfunctional team, and so I was there 2.5 years and had 5 coaches.
Really?
And I think when you really notice that when you have like a good coach, and you go to, you're traded or you go to another franchise and you have a bad coach, and all those things that you might have thought about the good coach, because every player, what they're actually thinking about,
right?
It's really, really magnified when you have an inferior coaching staff compared to what you're used to.
And the players know it. You talk to yourselves about it in the locker room.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And but we had in '84 when we had our first successful run, because the Flyers in the early '80s, they were a team in transition. Should we still be the Broad Street Bullies, or should we be joining the modern NHL, if you will, with fast tempo and puck movement and all that stuff? And I liken this team, and I'm getting away from your question, but I've said this many times, that this team here reminds me of the '84 Flyers, because there wasn't a lot expected of the '84 Flyers. We had a new coach. We had 7 players under Keenan.
Yeah.
We had 7 players under the age of 21.
The baby Flyers.
Yeah, and there wasn't anything expected. We weren't even picked to make the playoffs. We win the President's Trophy, for heaven's sakes. But what happened with Keenan in his tough style, we had a lot of players have career years, myself included. Like, I'd like to think of myself as a good defenseman, but I became a better defenseman under Keenan. Even look at the superstar Mark Howe. He was better under Mike Keenan. Brad McCrimmon, perfect example. They got rid of him in Boston, and he was kind of lost. Keenan made him into this reliable, really, really good defenseman. Tim Kerr, Brian Propp, Dave Poulin. A lot of guys had their career. And so I think, look at this team now with Torts. We're going to have all these young kids that they've talked about for all these years. I think we're going to have a lot of guys. Carter Hart might lead the list. Provorov has been very, very average the last couple of years. He's going to have a good year this year.
That's so interesting, Eddie, because the way Brad talks about it, I would think that there's a ton of pressure playing for a new coach. Obviously, a guy like Tortorella with his MO, you figure a lot of pressure going in. If I don't work out, I'm going to be gone and out of here. The way Brad makes it sound like there's less pressure. You just roll with the punches and then have a career year type thing. Do you think it's more pressure, less pressure? Have you thought about that at all when you play for a new coach?
No, new coaches just takes time to realize that, and with Torts, as with Mike, there's a way to go, and we are going in this direction, and let's get on board or get out of the way, type thing. And you know what? Players don't have a problem with success.
No, that would.
Yeah, when you're winning, it's a lot easier, because I know that going into a game saying, "Gosh, Brad, out of 80 games, we won 60 of them." There was never a bad 120 some points plus.
Yeah.
Nobody ever has a lottery ticket and wonders why they won. They just cash a ticket, right?
No, and
the thing with Torts is, yes, he's a new coach, but he's not really a new coach, because every player, when they signed John Tortorella in the summertime, knew exactly what they were getting. And guess what? They all came to camp in better shape than they had previously.
Well, before we go on,
I would think too that the leadership inside that room is so important too. Even if you only have a few older guys, they've got to be wanting to still be there and wanting to win,
all right, stop
not
right
just
there,
get a
Eddie.
check.
You have no captain on this team. Scott Lawton's the only guy scored an initial. The first couple games, the A. I'm a big Scott Lawton fan. I think naming him as the captain will be cool, but there's a couple other guys who could as well, with Claude Giroux gone, coming back here in November, just to promo that a little bit. But, Brad, how important is it for them to name a captain, for there to be a voice in the locker room, as Eddie talked about, and to have a leader among the players?
Well, I know where you're going with that, but the one thing that we've been missing for years and years, and this isn't a dig against Giroux, is we didn't have enough leaders in the room. Yes, he wore the
Great
C,
point.
and whoever wore the 2 A's over the last 4, 5, 6 years. We didn't have enough leaders in the dressing room, so I don't think it's a bad thing, because it's going to give a lot of players a chance to have a voice in the dressing room and hold each other accountable.
And that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before I forget, because I promoted at the end of the last segment and kind of slipped away to these other interesting things. Boxcar's origin is what?
Used to, it was given to me by an Ottawa reporter, Eddie McCabe, in the Citizens. He described me as a runaway boxcar on rails. I couldn't stop returning until I hit something.
There we are.
Even if it was his own man.
It's funny, but
Brad, I think, is another nickname. Didn't they used to call you Chuck because isn't your name Charles?
My first name's Charles. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chuck.
I've had different.
Wait,
Chuck and
Marsh.
Marshy.
Charles, why are we calling you Brad?
Because
Charles
that's my
Bradley
middle.
Marsh?
Yeah, that's my middle.
And is your father Chuck?
No.
No.
No, I don't know why, but I've had different names, and you talk to different teammates from those
Just don't
teams
call
or
me late
those
for dinner, right?
those eras, and that's how they refer to me. But it's funny you mentioned the reporter gave you that. That used to happen a lot back in the days. The reporters would hang a name on a player when they're writing their articles, and that doesn't happen anymore.
No, and you know what? And you know what? How that and how it really happened then. So there was no videotaping and no games. So teams would put together a scrapbook, send it off to NHL teams, and then the New York Times or the Post or whatever, the Philadelphia Inquirer would get it and read an article and say, oh, in the second round they drafted a kid named Boxcar Hospodar who hits people like a runaway boxcar.
All right, guys, just one question before we take our final break. Just came to me, and I wasn't going to ask this, but Brad, you're about in your early 60s. Eddie, you're in your early 60s. John Tortorella is 64, the Flyer coach. He never played in the NHL. He's from Boston. But at any of your stops along the way in the minor leagues, did you ever play against John Tortorella, either one of you guys?
No, I'd have to look at.
No.
All
That
right.
doesn't mean Mike Keenan never played in the NHL, and he had
Was it John Cooper?
Yeah.
No, I'm not
lots
saying
of
you have
guys,
to play in the NHL. Just wondering if you guys ever
Came
play
across him. No.
Did you ever play with a guy in your many travels around the world or around the NHL and the minor leagues? Eddie, you got your junior contract. We're going to talk about that after the break. But you played against somebody who was an okay player and now they're a tremendous coach, or a player that you thought this guy maybe not a great player but is going to become a great coach someday. Did that ever happen to either one of you guys?
I have one that I'm just so happy for him and so proud.
Can you hold it until after the break?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we'll take a quick break. Come back with that. We'll talk about Eddie Hospodar's junior contract, which he has with him. Brad Marsh, Eddie Hospodar, on the ice from Chickies and Pete's in Audubon, Pennsylvania, where we'll be next week as well. Neil Little, a former Flyer goaltender, will be our guest. We're back with Brad and Eddie right after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's, and we know Saturdays in the fall are special. Why? College football. And we have you covered with food and drink specials and the best in-game experience to watch your team or the college football game of the week. Come watch Penn State, Temple, Villanova, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan, Georgia, and more. College football Saturdays are special at Chickies and Pete's.
I'm Lisa Thomas-Laurie. If you're on Medicare, I've got great news. Keystone 65 HMO plans from Independence Blue Cross have earned 5 stars, Medicare's highest rating for 2022. Some plans have no monthly premiums, no deductibles, and no copays for primary care visits and some prescription drugs. Don't wait. Visit ibxmedicare.com/star.
Every year, Medicare evaluates plans based on a 5-star rating system. Keystone 65 offers HMO plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Keystone 65 Medicare Advantage plans depends on contract renewal. This is a paid endorsement.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
iSEPTA Philly.
iSEPTA Philly. iSEPTA Philly.
I ride the Broad Street line. Do you know how expensive parking is?
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
Because it's better for the environment.
I ride SEPTA all the time.
Monday through Friday, and whenever game day is.
I'm out the door and at my stop by 7:30.
I catch up on work when I ride.
I check Twitter, text my buddies.
I watch sports highlights or lowlights.
For real Philly fans, SEPTA is the hometown way to go. Ride with us at iseptaphilly.com.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Check out Chicky and Pete's all-new happy hour every weekday starting at 4 p.m. Enjoy select craft beers, seltzers, and wines for $5, plus feature cocktails for $7 on our special happy hour food menu. We call it the Bar Board, with world-famous crab fries, tasty pretzel nuggets, and get ready, Curds-A-Roni, with crispy bacon and Dijon cheese sauce. Chicky and Pete's all-new happy hour every weekday starting at 4 p.m. Chickies and Pete's.
We return to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
Goodness.
All right, back here with On the Ice, having an absolute blast with Brad Marsh and Eddie Hospodar today. Two guys about the same age, swapping stories. I'll tell you stories about my NHL career at a future time to be decided. Not a long career, but I never was on the ice for another team's goal. Never mind. Through all that stuff. Eddie, you were talking before the break about coaches that you played for, guys you played against that became coaches, and you had a story for us.
Oh, no, I think Craig Berube, a former teammate here, right, Brad?
Well, that's who I was going to say.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For him to have that, to come in and be that sort of role model, and then to have such a long career, and then be able to, when he came in and I think he even put time in here with the Flyers, and he was coarse and rough, and he would get right back at, forget being a player, get right back at a reporter's face to become all shined up and do what he did in St. Louis. But then there was Quenneville and Tocchet that went on to coaching. I'm surprised, Brad, you didn't go step down that way.
Well, you thought, I thought about it, but when your career retires and you start working, and your path was this way and this way and this way, and it just there was a time I used to get called by one NHL team often. Hey, can you come? Want to come? And I kept saying no. And
as an assistant or a head coach?
An assistant. And but anyhow, it didn't work out. And so now the game's the same, but it's changed. Like, even the lingo of the game has changed. The boards are now the wall, and I couldn't even live in the dressing room now because I don't know the modern lingo about the game.
What if I'd come to you in the dressing room? We talked a bunch during your career. I covered the Flyers for a long time, and if I'd come to you, Brad, and pointed to Berube's locker and said, your teammate Craig right there is going to be a Stanley Cup winning coach one day, after you finished laughing at me and making fun of me, and you thought about it, would you have thought that was possible?
No, to be honest, no. He never really showed any inkling that he was going to be a coach. And then, I mentioned Brad Shaw, who's now the associate coach. Like, you play with guys and you don't, but let's talk about Ron Hextall. Like, he was always intrigued about the game. He always wanted to talk the game. So it doesn't surprise me that he's a GM, because that's how he was when we played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have John Cooper, who never played in the NHL, multiple Stanley Cup winning coach. I don't think Bednar ever played in the NHL. I could be wrong. Colorado's coach who just won a cup. What makes a great coach, Eddie? What makes a great coach in guys that you played for? We talk about Tortorella, his early success. Obviously, he's been successful at stops along the way. If somebody said to you, Eddie, what's the one thing that every great coach you ever had has? Is there one thing?
You're getting everybody going one direction, and just know that they're going to hang out here, and it's a long, tough, hard feat to win 16 games and win a Stanley Cup. It's really, really,
you gotta
really
get
tough.
There, obviously, first. Yep. Brad, any one criteria you?
the ability to motivate, and I think that's key more so now, because the modern day athlete, not just hockey, all the sports, the modern day athlete is different, and so the coach has to be a motivator.
It's interesting you say that. We've seen Rob Thompson in baseball, Nick Sirianni with the Eagles, obviously Doc Rivers with the Sixers, but people think of coaches or managers, depending upon the sport, as guys who can X and O their way to success, who can get on a checkerboard or a chessboard and then put you guys where you need to be. But really coaching, either one of you guys can answer this, is more about handling people than the X's and O's, where a guy like Brad Shaw, the assistant coach, can do that. Your head coach may be a great X and O guy too, but Eddie, it's all about handling people, isn't it?
Well, Brad, you bring up a point that I may get away from there. The coaching's changed because, just like you said, there was owners that just wanted to do one thing. Now the players have more of a say, and there's rules about how many times you can be on the ice, how many times you can do this. You can't, almost threaten people with your career. You hung on their career. Players have more rights now, so there's got to be a respect, and yet still want them to go. And signing these contracts, like we just said about a gentleman who signed for 7 years, your average career is only like 4 years, and imagine you're just buckled down and guaranteed them money for them. How do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them going? It's really a two-way street.
Yeah, I think too, along with the motivation, the coach has to understand the situation or the moment. I was listening, sitting on the Schuylkill driving out here. I was listening to the Phillies game, obviously, and they were talking about the Phillies manager.
Who's Canadian, by the way, big hockey fan, Rob Thompson. Banged the drum at the regular season opener.
Yeah. And the announcers were saying, and he went out to the mound. What game was it? Anyhow, he went out to the mound, and the point that I was making, it was his first time that he went to the mound since he took over as the head coach or the head manager.
Yep.
And it was the first time, and I thought that was odd because I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I turn it on, especially in the playoffs, especially when the Phillies are in it, and you follow it. And it seems to me there's a manager or a coach or somebody at the mound all the time. But it was his first time. I thought that was interesting because far too many coaches now, especially inexperienced coaches, they call the timeout all the time. John Wooden never called a timeout in all the basketball games.
Not the first one. He never called John Wooden, well, he called timeout, obviously, but he never called the first timeout of a game. Phil Jackson, who won 11 NBA rings, same thing. They said if you call the first timeout, it tells the other guy who's doing something that you can't deal with.
Yeah.
So they never did it. That's
back to the Phillies, it was his first time out, and they asked him why he went out. And he says, I wanted to remind them to forget about just what just happened. There was an error on the play and so on. And I wanted to reinforce what the next steps were, what the next play was. And I thought that was genius. So there's a coach that understood the moment and understood the players. These guys are professionals. He wanted to make sure they forgot about the mistake that they just made.
One thing I want to get to, we only have a couple more minutes here. It's been a fun show. Carter Hart's obviously come out of the gate firing. A lot of questions about him coming into the year. Eddie, what have you seen out of Carter Hart? Is there another Flyer that's caught your eye early?
No, I'm honestly to say a little bit rusty in watching the Flyers, but, we wanted to say good teams always need a good goalie. You start at the back and work your way. At least for me, I'd get goalie's defense and then work around the forwards, because if you can't keep the puck out of your net, not much sense in trying.
I think that's what John Tortorella goes by too, Brad. What about Carter Hart to you? You're the head of the Flyer alumni. Keep in touch with everybody. Is Carter Hart the answer to the 30-plus year Flyer goaltending dilemma? And as anybody else, like Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim, whoever, caught your eye early?
Well, I think we're all hoping that Carter has the bounce-back year. And shows a full season of the brilliance and the flashes of brilliance that we've seen from him. That goes back. There's going to be a lot of players that have career years. I really, really believe that, led by Carter Hart. And you go back to when they're playing New Jersey there. We were ahead 4-2.
Yep.
New Jersey came out pretty strong in the third period. They made it 4-3, or they made it 4-2. We were 4-1, 4-2, and they were buzzing. We lose that game. I'm sitting here. We lose that game last year. That's what I was thinking while I was watching it. But we buckled down, we found a way to win. And to me, that the win against New Jersey was great because it was the home opener, so much negativity around the team. That was a huge win because of the way we did it. Came from behind, but then we held the fort in the third.
Such a good way to end the show, talking about winning. Right now, the Flyers will play 4 games. Good luck against Florida tonight. You'll know that already listening to the show now. Been such a pleasure to have Eddie Hospodar as our guest tonight. Boxcars, you are the man. Continued good luck in real estate and everything that you're doing. Thanks for being here tonight.
Awesome. Fun.
Brad, great maiden voyage. You'll be co-hosting throughout the year. Thanks to you so much. And rock and roll, Flyers 3-0. Can't get better than that.
Yep. Wonderful.
Sure, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. Best of luck with the Warriors. To Brad, we got some people to thank tonight. Brianne O'Neill produced this fine program. Thank you, Brianne. Gus Barber, our associate producer. Thank you so much, Gus. All Phillied up tonight. Hopefully the Phillies can help us out. The Eagles, fun time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. We're back here next week, next Wednesday, with Neil Little for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. I'm Paul Jolovitz for Brad Marsh and Eddie Hospodar saying have a great night. Go Flyers, go Phillies, go Eagles, go Sixers, go Philadelphia. Enjoy.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's.